come to Ganmain to play football for the local footy side in 1963.
Been here ever since?
Been here ever since, yeah.
Very good.
Nearly a local. And I sort of, from about 7 till 16 or so, I used to live out of Durnans, out at the farm. And I could tell you that Pat and Don's, they were the two boys that were at home. And I could tell you every car that they had right up, and the number plates, like I can still remember now, they both bought an Austin A90 car, convertibles they were, and their number plates was ST687 and the other one was YC096. And, you know, they just stand out. And Don said, "How in the bloody hell can you remember them bloody things?" And I said, "Well, what about the little blue panel van that you bought with it?" It was an Austin A40 little panel van. And he said, "We never..." I said, "Little Austin A40. I said, remember I packed my bag and was going home. You and me brother was share farming out there. I said, you and me brother got into me and give me a pummeling and made me do this and made me do that, so I packed my bag and was going home, and you drove around in the..." He said, "Jesus," he said, "how do you remember that?" I said, "Because I was walking across a bloody valley paddock carrying me pale port." Yeah. Things you do. Yeah, well, I came up here in 1963, and the first 18 months I worked on the farm with Artie Roy, and then I went on to the cutter, and so that would have been about, say 65, and then it was full swing. Like, it was just, it kept, like, it was good money. It was hard work, but it was good money. And if there was a bit more to it than just, there was a lot of pride taken in. If the chaff had a bit of rough stuff in it, they'd pull up and change the knives so that it looked, it had to look good to be, because it was, there was a lot of pride put into it for presentation, and good colour, and that's all in the making of the hay too, which gets back to the farmers, cutting it at the right time so that it cures right, and so everyone, sort of had a job to do, and it was done, and it was, well, you drive into town and you see the signs, hay centre of New South Wales. Well, I think it was the hay centre of Australia, really, as far as chaff went, because there was so much pride taken in it. I can remember I think we got a threepence a tonne rise at one time, and that was a lot of money, when you was cutting so we used to cut 40 tonne a day. If you didn't cut 40 tonne a day, well, you reckon you wasn't making enough money. And but there was always plenty of work. We used to leave, when we were cutting out in the paddock, the work truck left town every morning at 6 o'clock. If you wasn't on either pub corner at 6 o'clock, you missed your ride. And yes, there used to be there was two old guys, Joe Smith, poor old Joe, who could not read nor write, poor old Joe, but a real good steam box feeder, terrific. He nearly fed the cutter from down on the steam box. And old Harry Waters. And this was something that it wasn't in my time, it was previous to my time, but it used to be a morning smoko general thing. It happened a lot. They was talking, it was after Christmas, and they both got a watch each for Christmas, sitting there having lunch, and Harry Waters said to Joe, "Oh, Joe, you got a new watch?" "Yeah, I've got it for Christmas." He said, "What time is it?" He said, "There it is." And old Harry said, "So it are." Yeah, so she are. Some funny things happening. Gwen. Dear old Gwen, yeah, she was a great person, Gwen. I lived next door to where she was in the shop there in the garage with Bert and Noel, and yes, had a lot to do with Gwen, really. She looked after us really good when we first came up here, Betty and I, and we had the young bloke, and she used to spoil him. Yeah. She was real genuine person. She treated us like if we was one of her own. Wednesday used to be Wednesday nights and Saturday nights and a matinee Saturday afternoon for the kids. Yeah.
What sort of crowds they used to get in there?
Yeah, it used to be packed. Kenny used to open the side door and my two children watched through from our window through in. Yeah. Yeah, well, I played footy with Will. Played against him first when I was at Narandra. Of course, I knew him well enough before I came up here. I never ever worked with Will or anything after I came up here because I worked for Logan's and I started out on the farm with Logan's and worked with him all the time, but played footy with him and yeah, got on well with Will. He was a good player, good teammate. And Freddie Cameron, yes. I can remember Fred when I was living next to the picture there. I had an old steel, it was a rake and it had a piping handle put in the rake. And I had it on the chimney of the residence next to the picture theatre with an antenna on it from the TV. And of course Keith Morris was living in the house on the western side of us and Les Crozier was in the pub and they both had big high antennas and we was getting terrific reception on this old steel rake. And Fred come into Bert Brill's garage and he said, "What in the bloody hell's he got on that chimney out there?" And Bert said, "That's his antenna for his telly." He said, "He's getting terrific reception." So Bert brought Fred in. And he had a look at the TV and he said, "How much do you want for that bloody rake?" Yeah, how much do you want? Of course, poor old fella, he'd been having trouble. He couldn't get real good reception or something. Yeah, how much do you want for that bloody rake? It was easy to fit in when I first came up here, when I came up to play footy, because I knew a lot through other sports, you know, sort of thing, or other commitments or things that we'd done. I first got to know Frank when Horace Swan was the policeman here and was the Ganmain Young Citizens Club. He had a boxing club here, Horace Swan. And Frank was away at the time, but was backwards and forwards, and that's how I got to know Frank first, through the boxing, because I was boxing with the gym at Narandra, and we used to come up here. Yeah, I fought Henry Murrell and Wally Manning, and them up here. I fought Henry Murrell one night down in the hall down here, and I think we was in 1948, that was, I think, or round about that, the late 40s, and we were both 4 stone 6. And Pat Walsh was in the bottom pub. After you fight, the guy that you fought, win, lose or draw, you both went into Mrs. Walsher, and there was a little bottle of Sheiky's drink and a sandwich or cake or something, and yeah, you had that, and then went back into the hall after. Yeah, that was in the late 40s, early 50s. So I sort of, I was a bit tied up with Ganmain before I came up here to play footy, really. Not tied up, but come up here. That went on for 5 or 6 years. Classical things that used to happen, around morning smoking on that on the cutter. You'd different things they'd be talking about and how it had come out. And bloody, he said, I can always remember this Wally Mangelsdorf. He used to live over 2 doors down from me, where that guy's doing that old place up 2 doors down, and that's where he lived, Wall. And they went for they decided one smoke out was afternoon smoke out, and it had been raining and bloody stopping us, and you'd spread the tarps out and cover up. Then it'd come out like this, and you'd untarp it and start cutting, and the next thing another cloud would come across, and it'd rain again. You'd have to cover the bastard over again. Anyhow, they decided, this is becoming a bit of a, pain in the arse. We'll go for 3p a tonne rise, and so they asked old Fred, who was he was the boss, and. Moo, Fred used to say, ooh, I can't say nothing. And so that's okay. Anyhow, that was on the Thursday or something. Anyhow, Wally on the Friday morning picked us up down the bottom pub down there. No, they used to pick me up here. We pick him up down there, and before he jumped up on the truck, he went to the side and he said to Fred, "Have you fucking said anything to Logan yet?" No. Well, he said, best you drive fucking around there now, and we will. So we go around there, and poor old CJ goes in, Wally goes in, and he raps on the door. CJ come out, and he's laughing, snorting and carrying on. And he said, what can I do for you, Walter? And Wally said, well, he said, we want 3p a tonne rise, or otherwise we're not going to work. He said, Walter, you're holding the gun at me head. And he said, yes, and I'm just about to fucking fire it too.
Yes, it does.
Like last year at cropping time, out at Jim Carroll's, we were sowing a bit of black ground out there, and there was there was good moisture down, none on top. And in this black stuff, it was coming up. And I said to Tony, I don't know, the ground's going to want closing back down, so what do you reckon we harrow behind the cedar? And he said, well, we have done it before. He said, anyhow, he come and had a look, and he said, yeah, he said, you're right. He said, the moisture's there, but he said, it's not going to strike unless we do something, because it's going to be sitting there, and it's going to be that much above the moisture and none above it. So anyhow, we closed it down, and it's the best crop that's out there. And we done it on a bit of red ground out there too, and it's bloody just like that. But it's just little things you got to do sometimes, isn't it?